In this video, we're going to make the most basic, easy version of a space shooter game. This is designed to be like the minimum viable product. Here's what we're going to be making today. I'm making a simple space shooter where you can go and shoot your enemies, adds a score. If you don't quite get everybody, you can kind of fly around, but if you miss somebody, oh no, I missed them, and they get to the end, then it calls game over and you lose. I am moving a little bit fast during this tutorial. If you're brand new to PICO-8, I would check out my PICO-8 Essentials course, which is completely free. I'll just fly this boy up here. Here's the card on YouTube. Go ahead and check that out, and you can learn the basics of PICO-8, baby. Follow along. This is going to be a blast. Now, before we get started, it kind of goes without saying that Lazy Devs is the king of this kind of game. This guy is awesome. I've learned a ton from him. And if you want to take this kind of idea and make a super legit looking game, I would really recommend checking out his shmup tutorial. Or if you want to go just insane, he has an advanced shmup tutorial that's, I mean, just next level stuff. But we're going to keep it as simple as possible today. So in our code, the very first thing we're going to start with is function underscore init, parentheses, and then end, function underscore update, parentheses, end, function draw, parentheses, end. These are our main three callbacks. So this right here is going to set things that we need at the beginning of the game. This is going to do any kind of math and calculations and everything for each frame. And then in draw, we're going to draw each frame. So let's kind of start by mocking this up. I'm going to go to my sprite mode here, and let's go ahead and make a ship of some kind. And I'm just going to kind of make something that looks like this maybe. And we're looking down on our ship. So this is kind of a top-down perspective. And let's just, I'm just going to select this and move it up one. And so we're going to have, you know, the engine back here. We're going to have guns here. And we'll do something like this. All right. And I'm just kind of making the edges this kind of dark purple just to give this a little bit of definition here. Sure, that looks good. So it looks like we're kind of looking down on the ship. So here's the wings, here's the back of it, here's the cockpit. Maybe we'll just go with something like that. And this is going to be our ship. We're also going to need some enemies, and I'll just kind of go down below that. So we'll make the enemies red. And I'm just gonna kind of make something up here. You can make any kind of art you want for this. Okay, sure. We'll just kind of outline it like this. Sure, that looks good. So these are gonna be bad guys. This is gonna be our good guy. And I think we'll just start with that. So the idea here, if I go to our map, is we're gonna have our good guy down here. Then we're gonna have bad guys kind of coming after him like this, and he's gonna shoot him. Now, just so you know, we're not gonna be using the map for this game. That's just to kind of plan it out. So the first thing let's do is actually draw our ship, which is sprite 1. So we got to remember that. And so one thing we can do is just clear the screen, CLS, and then draw our sprite, SPR, and then sprite 1. And if we save and run, should probably actually spell things right. That'll work. Then that draws our ship in the upper left. Okay, so let's actually draw this kind of in the middle. So that is 63 on the x-axis, and if it's going to be kind of down here, that's going to be about 120 or so. Save, run, and now it's down here. That's good. Let's actually bring it up just a little bit. Let's see, like 110. Save, run. Yeah, so there he is. But we don't have any way to move him yet. So let's go ahead and let's set up our player. So in our init, let's just make a variable called PLR equals, and then we're going to do curly braces. This is going to set up a table where we can put a bunch of different properties for our player. And so let's just say x equals 63, comma, y equals 63, and let's say 110. And then this, we're just going to say plr.x and plr.y. So what that's doing is that's taking these values that we're assigning to player X and player Y and just putting them here instead of the number 63 and 110, save, run, and it should work exactly the same. But the difference is now that we can take these and we can adjust them with our controls. So under update, let's just make a function called move. So I'm just going to say MOVE and then two parentheses, and down here, actually, let's make another tab and we'll just call this player controls, and we'll just say function move, and we define what the function is. So if we're hitting a certain button, btn, which button? The left arrow. So I can hit Shift L, and that's going to make a left emoji here. So if we're hitting the left button, then end, just so I don't forget. Then player.x minus equals 1. Minus equals means that we're going to take the value of x and then we're just going to take it down 1. It's kind of the same as saying player x equals player.x minus 1. It's just a shorter way to write that. So we're going to write it like this. Player x minus equals 1, save, run, and if I hit the left button, he can move to the left. Hey, that's cool. Okay, let's do the opposite, and let's just actually write else if button right, that's just shift R, then player.x plus equals 1. So now we should be able to move this left and right. Oh, baby, it's happening. Yay, we did it. Now, just to make this a little easier on us, I'm going to take this player table and we're going to move this to the other tab too. So I'll hit Control X to cut this, and I'm going to replace this with PLRINIT, and let's say player, let's just say P setup. Doesn't matter what you call it. So this is a function that I'm going to define over here. So we'll just say function PLR setup, P setup, just like that. And we're just going to put exactly what we would put in our init. Save, run, make sure that works. Yay, we did it. Okay, let's actually save this as space shooter 1. Okay, great. So now our guy can move back and forth, but he can't move up and down. So let's go ahead and let him do that. That's if you want to do this. Let's just say else if. We'll just let him move one of 4 directions. So this is going to be up, and this is going to be down. And instead of X, we're going to say Y on both of these. So if we hit up, then player.y, we take away 1. And if we hit down, then player.y, we're going to add 1. Save, run. So up works, down works, left and right. So now we can move our guy up and down and left and right. Great. Now, one thing we're going to want to be able to do is keep him on the screen. So what we're going to want to do is wrap each of these in an if. So if player.x is greater than 0, then we do that. So as we run it, if I go all the way to the left, I shouldn't be able to go off screen. It just stops. And we're going to just do this for each of these. So we'll just copy this. This is going to be less than 120. And I'm going to make it 120 on this side because that will keep him totally on screen and he can occupy those last 8 pixels because the position of the sprite is in the upper left corner. So this will keep him on screen. If I said 128, he would kind of go off screen like my cursor is going off screen right now. Okay, let's put an end on this. Great. Same thing here. If player.x or player.y is greater than 0, then do that. And if player.y is less than 120, then do that. Make sure to tab all of these over because we're good human beings, just like that. Okay. Now, there are other ways to do this if stuff, ways to maybe do this more efficiently, but it's going to work just fine for us. So now we can't go all the way off to the left or bink to the right or down or all the way up. Okay, so he stays on the screen. We have a moving character that stays on the screen. Yay, go us. Now we got to be able to shoot. So let's go ahead and make another function. This is just in our player tab here. So we'll just say function shoot, and we'll have to call this. So during update, actually, let's do this during the draw, I think, because it's going to be primarily drawing stuff rather than thinking about stuff. Let's just say shoot. And you can do this a couple different ways. You can either test if you're shooting here and then say shoot, or you can just call shoot each time and then test within the shoot. I kind of like to do it here because then I have all the controls on one tab. And so let's just wrap this in if button, and let's just say X, then this is just shift. This right here is just shift X, by the way. If button X, then we actually do our shooting. And there are a few ways that we could shoot. We could just shoot a laser out, which will just kind of draw a line, and then we can see if things are touching that line. We could also do it with a particle and have that go. I think for this, just to keep it simple, let's do a line. If you guys want to see about like a particle bullet thing, let me know and I'll do a follow-up video. So if button X, then we're going to draw a line. So we'll just say line. And what we need to do is define the beginning of the line and the end of the line, as well as the color. So if I were going to draw a line from, let's say 63, 120 to 63, 0, and make that color, let's look up our colors, this green, color 11, save, run. And now when I hit X, it shoots a line like this. And all it's doing is just drawing that line. Now, it's not moving with my player, but it does have a line there when I hold down X. Now, we don't want that to be on all the time, so let's say button P. That just means button just pressed, save run. And now if I hit X, it kind of blinks off and on, which is actually going to work just fine for our laser. But generally, it's just when I hit X, it's going to be on for like 1 frame. So let's have this follow our player, and let's go ahead and set that variable here just so we don't have this big hairy thing. So let's just say local LX. This is just going to be the laser's location on the X axis, and that's going to be based on the player. So it's going to be player.x, and let's just start with that. And then we'll also say local LY, that equals player.y, and that's probably going to be like +2 or something like that. So let's go with that. So this is when we hit that X, we're going to set our location X as player X and our location Y as player Y +2. Then we can replace this with LX, and this one with LX, and this one with LY, and then this one we can leave at 0 because we want it to go all the way across the screen. Okay, save, run. Now, ooh, dang, we kind of nailed that. Just about nailed that. Cool. All right, so that's coming from his left gun. If we want this to shoot from both guns, we can just kind of do this again. Let's just say, let's just make another variable, LX. Let's just say LX2 equals player.x plus like 5 maybe, something like that. So we'll also draw another line, LX2, comma LY, LX2, comma 0, comma 11, save, run. Okay, so now we have 2 lasers, but it's kind of needs to be over 2 more pixels, this other one. So let's just say +7, save, run. There we go. Now we have lasers from our guy. And if we move him up and down, it kind of moves with him. Pew, 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 pew. Pew, 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 pew. Awesome. So cool. Lasers are rad. Okay, so that's how we shoot. Now we got to get some enemies going. So let's go ahead and make another tab, and we'll call this enemies. And let's see, the first thing we got to do is actually spawn an enemy. So let's just say spawn enemies like this. Function, need to say function. Then we'll need a function to update the enemies. Let's make this shorter. Let's just actually say I enemies for init enemies. And let's do function u enemies, function D enemies. Okay. And then we'll need to call each of these to make sure they're actually working here. So in u enemies and then draw enemies. Okay. Let's just label these. Let's just move player, set up player. All right. Shoot if X. All right. So what we're really doing here is we're keeping this page clean. So we know just all the stuff that's happening. We just kind of have a list of all the things that are happening. And then we kind of get into detail in these other tabs. So for the enemies, essentially what we want to do is set up kind of like our player, and we'll keep it really simple first. So en equals, x equals 63, y equals 30. Sure. And then we need to draw our enemy. So SPR, and let's figure out our sprite number. That's 17, sprite 17. I'm going to draw that at en.x, comma en.y. So now if we save and run, we have our enemy there. Now we're going to make this more complicated here in a second, but our enemy shows up there. We'll also need to figure out a way to, when we shoot the enemy, to make him die. So let's do this in function. And let's just go ahead and say if button p x, then if player dot, let's just say if, actually, let's go ahead and take these, make these not local. Let's go ahead and make these global variables so that we can use them. LX, L2, and LY. So these are laser stuff. So if enemy.x minus LX is less than, actually, we're going to do something kind of tricky here. We're going to say if the absolute value of enemy X minus laser X is less than 8, then we're going to die. Now this is really fancy. What this is doing is this is looking at where our enemy is and where our laser is happening, and basically checking to see if they're within 8 pixels of each other, because this could be, depending on where the laser is, a positive number or a negative number. When we say absolute value, it turns it into a positive number. And so basically, if it's within 8 pixels, then we're going to call the function die. And for now, let's just say function die does something like alive equals 0 or false. And then we'll say if alive, then, and then at the beginning, we'll say alive equals true. Save run. Now, when we hit him, ooh, LX is a local value. Ooh, okay. We need to set our original LX. So we'll do this in our player. Just go ahead and copy all of this here and put it in our init. Okay. Save run. So now when we shoot him, he dies. So if I go way over here, ooh, he still dies. What about over here? Yep, he dies either way. Show, something's wrong. Let's go ahead and just test this. Just gonna go to the draw function, say print this, save run, true, false. Oh, it's testing it before we shoot. So let's just go ahead and do this. Let's just set this in our update instead. Like that, save run, that should work. Yeah, so now it's false, false, true. Yay, we did it. Okay, now let's also do this for LX2. Say or blah, 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 LX2. It's also gonna happen. Now we can shoot him with this one or this one. Okay. That we don't have to be as close. And actually we're gonna say enemy X plus 4 and make this less than 4, plus 4, and make this less than 4, just to make the range a little bit smaller. So now we should be able to just barely hit him like that, and then just barely hit him like that. Perfect. Yay. And actually for LX2, let's just say plus 3 like this, save run. Yep. Great. So now anytime that we hit that guy, he dies. Perfect. So this is great. This works, except for this is the most boring game ever. It's like, all right, we're just gonna shoot this guy. Okay, great. So what we need to do is have our enemies actually move around and come and get us and that kind of thing. So we're gonna do that by setting the enemies essentially kind of like a particle system. So instead of just drawing one sprite, we're going to draw a lot of sprites. And we're gonna do this using a table. So IEN, we're gonna start with enemies, that's our table. So enemies equals this. So just a blank table. And we're going to add to our table enemies a enemy. Comment out some of the stuff we were kind of using earlier so that we don't really have anything calling our die function or checking if we're alive or anything like that. In fact, let's just go ahead and get rid of this stuff because we're going to be making it again. Let's get rid of alive. We're just going to focus on this right here. So we're going to create a table, an empty table called enemies, and then we're going to add initially to that table enemies, one enemy with an X and a Y position. So now we're essentially kind of doing the same thing, except this guy's in a table instead of just one enemy. So let's kind of test this out just by drawing it. And we're going to do a for loop. So we're going to say for E for enemy in all enemies do. And we're just going to say sprite, and we're going to say E.X and E.Y. So that's going to find this value right here for this. And then for E.Y, it's going to find this value. We don't need to print that, save run. Okay, so it's doing the exact same thing and it's putting our enemy right where it was, but it's doing it from a table. Now, what's really cool about that is we can repeat this a bunch of times. So for instance, we can add several enemies by saying for E equals 1, 3 do. This is going to do this 3 times. We're going to add an enemy, but instead of 63, we're just going to say random 120. Ensure we can keep Y as 30. Save, run. Now we have multiple enemies. Actually, if we think, I think we go 0 to 3. That makes 4. They must have been right on top of each other. Amazing. Okay, so now we have 3 enemies. Let's make this random to like 40. Save, run. Make sure you put it inside of the parentheses. Save, run. So now every time we run, we have a different collection of enemies like this. They're moving around. Great. We got to make sure we can shoot them all. So essentially we're going to do kind of what we did here, except for we're going to check for each enemy. So for E in all enemies do. We're going to check if e.x and e.x instead of enemy.x is there. Great. And if so, we're just going to say e.life equals 0. Okay. We need to actually give it life first. So let's actually put this down like this. Okay. Let's see, life equals 100. So we're setting up our table of enemies, and each enemy, this is like a subtable thing, has an X, a Y, and a life. Then we're only going to draw this if e.life is greater than 0, then do this. So now save run. There's our guys. If we shoot them, they die. Oh, baby. This is almost a game now. It's almost a game, but we got to get them moving around. So last part, we're going to give them each a speed. So let's just say SX for speed X. And that's going to be random, I don't know, 3, comma, and then SY equals, let's just say 1 for now. So they're all going to have a random speed on X, and then they're all going to sync down 1 pixel at a time with Y. So that means under our update enemies thing, we're going to say for E in all enemies, do SX E.X plus equals E.SX, and then E.Y plus equals E.SY. That's going to move each of these at its own speed each frame. Save, run, and now they're kind of moving. Of course, they go off screen. So we got to kind of have a similar thing too for our off screen as we did with our player. So let's say if E.X is greater than 0, let's say is less than 0, then E.SX equals E.SX times -1. And let's just say or E.X is greater than 120 and do that. So let's see how it works. Looks like they're bouncing, baby. Sick. That was pretty dang easy. If E.Y is greater than 120, then we lose. Just say lose. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and make their speed a little bit smaller. So let's just say random 1. And then this, let's do like 0.2 or something. Save, run. Now it's much, much easier. Psh, psh, psh. Okay. And let's get it so this actually says something when we lose. So under init, so let's make a state for our game. And what that means is kind of the mode. So whether you're in the menu, whether you're alive or dead or whatever. So we'll just say state equals play. In quotes, state equals play. And then we'll say if state equals play, then, and I'm doing double equals here because we're just checking for a value. And, okay. And we'll say else for now. Else, we're just going to say print you game over. Just like that. Save, run. Should probably hit end. Save, run. Okay, game over. That's what it says. State equals play. If state equals, oh, this needs to be in quotes. There we go. If state equals play, then we'll do this. Okay. When we lose, which I think I wrote here. Yeah, if we lose, let's just say states lose, say function lose, then state equals lose. Save, run. So now we do this, we can kill our enemies, yay, that's great. But if this enemy gets lower than my ship, then we should lose. Oh, here it comes, baby, here it comes. Game over. There we go. Last thing we need is a way to add a score. So let's just go ahead and make another tab. We'll say score, and we'll say function print score. Let's just say function display, sure. And we'll say print score. And we'll do this in the upper right. So we'll say 100, 0, and we'll pick a color. Let's make it like yellow. So color 10. And we're going to set our initial score equals 0. And under draw, we're going to say display, save, run. So now our score is in the upper right, but we need to add to our score when we kill enemies and show equals life and then score minus equal or plus equals 1. Sure. Save, run. Now, when we kill enemies, our score goes up. that's pretty much all of the elements of this game. That's our minimum viable product. So of course we can add better art. We can do all kinds of stuff. What do you think we should add next on something like this? What would you add? But hopefully this is helpful for you. Ooh, look at that. This only needs to, we need this to actually kill our enemy. And so let's just say delete from enemies this enemy. Save run. Okay. So now that's actually going to get rid of it instead of just hiding it. There we go. All better. Yay, we did it. That's our space shooter, guys. Hey, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And if you want to learn more about PICO-8 and what the heck is happening here, check out my PICO-8 Essentials course. It's totally free. Teaches you all about a lot of the stuff we talked about here, all the major things you need to know about PICO-8. Thanks for watching.